So welcome, Caedis Knight. Welcome to Collab Writers.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for joining us here tonight. And the way we'll do things tonight is we'll go through some questions, and then Caedis Knight will be giving us some top tips on collaboration. And then there will be a chance for you to ask questions at the end of the session. So yes, welcome both of you. And Caedis Knight, if you don't already know, is the wonderful writing collaboration of two already in their own right successful published writers, N.J. Symonds and Jacqueline Sylvester. So welcome both of you. Can you tell us a bit about yourselves and how you met and how this came together?
I've got that on our slides. Should I share the screen?
Please, yeah, absolutely.
And then I can introduce us with our photos. Soon as
wonderful. Thank you.
Jackie's laughing already. Going, look, she designed it all. Let her put her pictures.
Go for it.
Okay. And yeah, I won't do all the talking this time. I promise, Jackie.
Wow.
So these are our books, and I'll introduce us. So my name's Natalie. I write as N.J. Symonds, and Jackie, he writes as Jacqueline Sylvester, and together we're Caedis Knight. So here we are. Jackie, you can go first. I put your picture first.
Yeah, well, I don't really like having the really nice photo and then me on Zoom. Very different things. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Sylvester, and I write books. I write YA and romance together with Natalie, and I also work as a script doctor for my day job. I help people either improve their scripts, and yeah, I work with studios sometimes and often with animation. So that's me.
My name is Natalie, and I write as N.J. Symonds. And I'm a fiction author, but I'm also a storytelling coach and consultant. So you can look at our websites. We see what we do during the day, as well as, we say during the day, we mainly write during the day. But it's really good fun. And then together we are Caedis Knight. And I think my next slide is how did we meet and how did we start writing together? Because Jenny was kind enough to send me some prompt questions. So I did these slides mainly so we could remember what it was that we wanted to discuss. Let's have a look. There we go. God, so good. So tell me, Jackie, why did we start writing together?
Oh, who knows? Well, why did we start writing together? So we met at YALC, which is the Young Adult Literature Convention.
Literary convention, yeah.
Yeah, literary convention, which is part of London Comic Con. And we met a few years ago, and we were author friends at first, and then became friends. And last year, was it last year, 2009?
2019, no, it was like a year and,
yeah,
maybe a year and a half ago, yeah.
Just like a blank in my mind.
Last year didn't happen.
But I called Natalie and I asked if she would like to co-write together with me, and she was really quick to agree as well. And there were many reasons behind my wanting to co-write, but Natalie, you can get into that if you want, into how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I remember actually, it was October, and you rang just because, you know, we ring each other for a chat a lot of the time, and you were like, oh, I've got this really strange request, and you can say no if you want to, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, what is this proposition? And she's like, I really want to write paranormal romance, like right to market, you know, we can, and would you like to do it with me? I was like, yes, yes, yes. And you were still trying to sell it to me. I was like, no, definitely yes. And because we already knew each other's books and we liked each other's writing, and we were friends already, which I think makes a big difference. So then that was it. We just started getting really enthusiastic about it from the onset. And Jackie already had some ideas in mind. She was like, this is only an idea. And I said, no, I love it. Let's just go with your idea. And, you know, I added some bits to it, and we carried on brainstorming together. And that was in October 2019. And we started straight away, didn't we? We didn't muck about.
For me, it was observing people writing to market in paranormal romance and feeling like I would really love to do that. And I had always wanted to write with vampires and fairies and witches and create a big world. But after all the projects that I did in the past, I just couldn't think of doing another big thing completely alone. It just felt really isolating. And I saw people co-writing and I was like, well, how does this work? And yeah, it worked swimmingly for both of us because writing books is quite isolating. And then all of a sudden we had this structure because people have preconceived notions that agents and we have a foreign rights agent and we have publishers, and I have some foreign publishers. They have these preconceived notions that that's going to be your support network. And yeah, maybe sometimes it is, but you do wait for like 3 weeks to get a reply in publishing. And so starting to co-write together just created this like ecosystem of the two of us where we like had a business and we were able to keep momentum all the time and get really excited all the time. So that was really cool.
That's exactly it. For me, it was the momentum, because any of you that work, I mean, film's even slower than publishing, but the creative industry sometimes doesn't go as fast as you'd like it to. So, you know, if you've got an agent or a publisher, they can take 3 weeks to reply to an email. If you're querying agents, they can take 6 to 12 weeks. I mean, that's what you meant to do in that time, right? So we have our own books that are out there that are either out already or they're in the middle of production, or we're querying agents. And in that, the gaps in between, they're long. We have plenty of time to be doing this together as well. And it was exciting because when you're self-published, and we also publish under Jackie's imprint, the paperbacks, there's always something you can be doing. There's always sales and marketing, there's audio, there's the next book. This is a 6-book series with 3 novellas. I didn't even introduce the books. Should at least explain what they are. This is our novella, Sirens of Los Angeles. And this is Vampires of Moscow. So they're already out.
I think that ties up with the next slide, doesn't it, Natalie?
Does it? I don't know, because I didn't print it out to know exactly what was.
Sorry, that's
yes, here we go. The process. So
the 3 books are on the first slide. So those are the 3 books that we've revealed so far, but it's a large series. So the 3 books that we have right now is Sirens of Los Angeles, Vampires of Moscow, and Witches of Barcelona. So you can see a trend, and it does continue onwards like this, each time a new European city, each time a new paranormal. So that's
exactly. And that's what really sold it to me, because Jackie and I have lived all around the world, and we're proud of that. You know, Jackie speaks 5 languages fluently, is it? And I speak 2, and we've lived all over Europe or all over the world. I don't know, I think it was 9 or 10 countries between us. And that's what we had in common. And that was what really kind of bonded us as writers, because we thought, well, let's set a paranormal, kind of a bit sexy, very suspense, very funny as well, series in cities that we've lived in. So, you know, we write about the things that we love, and we wanted to show the real side of these locations. So when she came up with the idea of the main character being a verity truth witch, and she's an investigative reporter, and the Blood Web was something that Jackie knows a lot about, more techie kind of STEM side, I just thought, this is such a cool idea. I've never seen it done before, that we did that, you know, dive straight in. Brainstorming just went from there, I think from day one, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was the first time in both of our careers where we just wanted to do something just for the fun of it, and that worked out well for us. Because I don't think we ever approached something being like, I just want to have a lot of fun. And yeah.
And I think that's what made us go so fast and get it right quicker than we might have before, because it's so easy when you're trying to please an agent, please a publisher, please the public, to think, you know, to doubt yourself. And when it comes to creativity, you have to stay in the flow. And because we originally were like, let's just not tell anyone that it's us. Then we can write about whatever we want and not be embarrassed and not worry about it. And then we got really proud of the book. So I know, let's tell the world it's us, because actually, you know, we really want to be associated with this. But it was that sense of freedom and that approach that I think makes a huge difference, because we are 2 friends having a lot of fun. Yeah. And not a day goes by that we're not on the phone, that we're not texting each other, that we're not constantly brainstorming. Jackie was even at my house in September before we were on lockdown. and just lived with me and my family, and we were editing every single day. And you can't do that with somebody that you don't have a good relationship with.
Yeah. So how does the duo start writing together? We get asked a lot of technical questions, because I guess that's the first thing people think about is literally how does it work? And I think it would be different for different people, because there's plotters and pantsers. So whatever you're comfortable with, whether you need the story fully plotted or you can kind of write as you go. The system we've had so far is that we have obviously the idea for the series. That took some time. Mapping out the world took some time. We did that through shared Google documents, usually Pinterest boards, and I think that's it. Yeah, so mostly Pinterest boards and shared Google Docs.
I have a slide for this, Jackie.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. This is wonderful. Look how well we work together. No, I was just going to say, this is what makes me laugh, because how do we find our inspiration? We've only got one brain. We've got two brains between us and one lot of ideas. So how do we make sure that what's in my head I can translate? And we're both really creatively visual people. So we do literally put together Pinterest boards. We are messaging each other. I mean, the amount of data Facebook has on us, I don't know. So, I mean, dodgy data probably as well.
We tend to pre-approve things, which I think is good for a co-authorship, because then you don't have someone writing 2,000 words that maybe the other person doesn't agree with. So we pre-approve plot points, and we pre-approve photos. I got really distracted.
I think your audio, I don't know if it's my machine or is it your audio, Jackie? Can you hear?
Not mine.
Oh, I can't hear very well now. Okay. Yeah, so as Jackie said, we'll start off with an idea.
I did. Oh, I don't know why.
Oh, I think somebody needs to mute themselves, yeah.
Sorry, forgive me.
There's a lot of feedback. You might be muting your mic.
Oh, that's it. That's what I could hear. I couldn't hear myself. Yeah, so we start off with an idea. So, for instance, with Witches of Barcelona, without giving too much away, because that's our next book. I was raised in Barcelona I was born in London, but I was raised in Barcelona from 3 weeks old, actually. So all my family's still there, and I know it pretty well. So I wanted something that was really Catalan, really gothic, but also really sexy. The characters bisexual, so who she ends up with is all sorts of people. And so we started putting some pictures together. So Jackie started putting things on our Pinterest board, so did I. We agreed, well, our main character is going to look like Halsey, the singer, and let's set it here. Let's not be too obvious and set it in La Sagrada Familia. Let's set it in the Gothic quarter, and likewise, just in the course of the day, I'll sometimes say like, oh, look, male corset. That's a new one. How about our Faceway male corset? That hasn't been decided yet. That was just me chucking ideas. And, oh, here's a group you should join on Facebook that's all about the Fae, because, they'll come in later on in the series. And like Jackie said, we approve ideas. Okay, they're going to look like this guy. So now when we're both writing, the haircut descriptions and all that stayed the same. And then we also chat on the phone a lot. Mainly not about our books. I don't know, we just need to get that out of the way for an hour. And yeah, we take it from there. But the next slide, I think, is about the process. Yeah. So, okay, you explain the process, because we're still finding our feet. We keep swapping.
We have swapped our process around for book 2, which I think is making both of us anxious. Book 3. But our initial process was to take a Word document, split up the chapters depending on beats. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with like story beats and stuff. We split up the chapters, we assigned them, and then we took turns. So every day that you weren't writing, you would wake up to a new chapter, and then that helped momentum. It helped to get excited. It was kind of like playing that game where, someone's continuing your drawing and you're folding over the piece of paper. So we did that. It worked really well for book 1. For book 2, we've changed it around because my parents are from Moscow, so I took the reins on Vampires in Moscow, but I haven't been to Barcelona since I was little. So we changed it up a little bit because that is more Natalie's expertise. And yeah, then we put everything on a Google shared doc eventually, so that, because at some point you're going to hit a point where if you're editing stuff, you start to get scared that you're going to lose something in the joint editing process. So then we put it on a shared doc. We don't love it. We don't love Google shared docs. They're not as practical as like Scrivener or something. But that's what we use, so that when we hit the point where we're happy with the manuscript, I don't like edit something and then she edits something and then we lose each other's edits. Yeah, then it goes back into Word. I don't know if people are interested in the really technical side, but that's it. It goes back into Word for final polishing, because Word is the standard for books then being mapped out and stuff. Blanking on the right words. What is the right word?
Formatting?
Format for books. Formatted. And yeah, then we return into one single Word doc for the final pages.
So we do back and forth a lot, because we're always scared that like we're going to lose where we're up to. So yeah, and also we work to our strengths, and we didn't know what our strengths were until we started writing together. So when we wrote the novella, and this is just a little taster, so it's like 99p on Amazon. It's you know, I don't know how many chapters did we write in the end, 17 chapters or something off the top of my head, 18. It was just a fun prequel to ease you into the series and why Saskia becomes a reporter and how she loses her sister and stuff. When we started writing that, we realized, well, actually, Jackie is way funnier than me. I mean, she's way funnier than anyone I know. So she was really bang on with Saskia's character. She's a great character developer, really, really good with dialogue. I think, are you making faces because I'm being really nice to you? She's like, what? Because of her background in film, I think she's just very, very good with character development and plot, whereas I'm much more enthusiastic about action, description, world building. So a lot of the times, you know, she'll write a chapter quite short and it will have amazing dialogue and some really cool ideas, but then they'll be like, Natalie, describe what the beach looks like. Natalie, they're having a fight in this bit, just write the fighting scene, you know, and I'll add like an extra 2,000 words to it. And that works really well for us. And sometimes I'll get confused with the plot and I'll say, you know, can you go back, and she'll clean it up and tighten it. And we go back and forth like that until, yeah, we've got one big document. And then that's when we get together. We can't at the moment, so we're struggling with the current book we're working on. We might have to do it via Zoom like this all day, but back in September, she came to my house and we spent 10 days editing every single day from 8 in the morning until midnight. We were mainly working, but it was just so much fun. We were just laughing the whole time. It got to the point that the kids were just like, I don't believe you're working. You're just laughing. You just had your friend here for 10 days to laugh. It's like, well, it's just so much fun because it's such a lonely existence writing, and it's all in just one head. And this time you feel like you're living in the world with your friends. So, and that's when, you know, you give it that final polish, which is important because we, at the moment, don't work with another editor. We have a number of street team and proofreaders and beta readers who go through it and give us their opinion. But it's ultimately up to us to make it perfect, because we don't have publishers to, you know, to be our scapegoats on that one. So, and it's the same with the audiobook. You know, we had to listen to the entire thing and go back to amendments. It's quite a process. Oh, I think I've covered that, haven't I?
Yeah, if anyone has editing questions, I guess they can ask them at the end for the more exact process, but that's it. Roughly it's Scrivener for me because I love Scrivener for novel writing, Word for you, right, Natalie? And then we change off, and then eventually we'll end up on Google Shared to then eventually return to Word. And then we have a bunch of different things that help complement the process. So like one shared chat, one shared Pinterest board, and the Pinterest board is divided to subcategories, like many categories. We have a master document that we refer to, so that has the world building in it. So anytime one of us comes up with some world building, because it's a series of 6 books for now. So if we talk about the Fae and we've decided something, it has to go in there so that we can keep referring back. And these different tools help us a lot. And most of them are free, except for Scrivener. It's all free.
I mean, I loved Scrivener when I trialed it, but it's not very good for PCs. I haven't got a Mac, and it crashed, and I haven't got over the fact that I did lose an entire chapter of a previous book, and too scared now to trial it again. But I think it's meant to be amazing for Mac, and it has got some really good functions. But yeah, and this world building, for instance, you know, our witch community in our books have got 10 factions, and each of them have got their own logo. It's all a bit Harry Potter, you know, so each house has got its own logo. And our Fae is split into 4 courts, and they've also got their own flags and all that. I love design, so a lot of the graphics and silly things like, you know, this presentation, I do a lot of that. Jackie designed the covers, so a round of applause, because I was incredibly nervous when she said, well, I'll have a go. And I was like, are we going to fall out like literally on book 1? Is she going to do something really awful? And then I'm going to have to kind of, I was really worried it was going to be awkward, but she's just awesome. So that's great. And I did the website, and she did our really cool trailer that you can see, the video trailer you can see on our website. So there's a lot of skills between us that we were really lucky we could cover. And yeah, and that world building document has all these things as well. So we don't lose track of everything, because there's a lot in this world, you know. Okay, this was a question Jenny asked me about self-publishing. If you're doing it yourself, do you start your own imprint, or do you go trad, or do you go straight to Amazon? Over to you, Jackie, because I think between us we've done everything, haven't we?
Yeah, so I would say it depends on the genre and what you've written. If you know, wrote a middle grade, then probably try to go trade and then move into self-publishing if it doesn't work with trade at first. So if you research it and learn about distribution networks and things like that, you have a better chance sometimes with trade, and then sometimes no chance for certain books. So there's a lot of niche categories nowadays, like some people like aviation thrillers or certain types of paranormal romance, and there's not a lot of room for that in trade. And also the waiting time in trade will be at least a year and a half, best case scenario. So if you wrote something and you're really proud of it and you want to get an agent and then a publisher, then that's possible. It's going to take, you know, that amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you wrote, you know, maybe a World War II, you know, vampire saga, then maybe its place is in self-publishing, because there's a hunger for that there, for example. So we never considered trade, because right away we wanted a big series that would be something called fast release. So it'd be released quickly, so people don't lose interest. And so you're building a readership really quickly. This type of series would take 6 years in trade. We're doing it in 2. And that's also a financial decision. So for us, it was always self-publishing. The reason I started my own imprint years ago is because that allows for a little bit of legitimacy and being stocked in, like, for example, libraries, being in the London Library, and a few other things like that. So that's also a little bit of a complex process, but you can easily start your own imprint, and then you just have to learn how the business functions and yeah, how to approach those networks. But I would say between those 2 decisions, it really depends on what you prefer. So do you mean trade? Someone asked.
So I meant trad as in traditional.
Yeah.
It means the same thing. So I didn't want anyone to think there was a spelling mistake. It's trad as in traditional publishing.
Yeah, English people say trad when they're abbreviating it, and then Americans say trade. That's what I thought. That's why I thought you abbreviated like that now.
No. I meant trad as in traditional publishing, which means like trade. Yeah, so it means the same thing, but it just looks like I made a spelling mistake.
Yeah. Trad is like the short version, and then trade is what it actually is.
Oh, right. Okay.
So yeah, so it really depends on what people are writing, and some books might have an amazing chance in trade, and some books, you know, there's a hunger for that in the indie sphere. So yeah, so for us it was
Exactly.
the former, but we have a foreign rights agent, and then we're pursuing traditional publishing in other countries because it will work better in that format there. So
yeah, exactly. And as Jackie was saying, it really depends on your background. So, you know, some people need the kudos, the legitimacy of having an agent and then an editor and then seeing themselves in bookshops and having opportunities like that. So my other books, I didn't put them behind me because I thought, well, we're just going to focus on Caedis Knight, but my other books as NJ Simmons do have, they are traditionally published in the US. And they obviously look after the editorial side of things, the print, the production, the cover design, and some level of marketing and promotion. But quite frankly, the amount of control and ability to make decisions on this series for me has been phenomenal, because we both I come from a marketing design background, Jackie's comes from animation and script and design and TV, and between us we already have all the contacts, we have all the design and marketing experience, we understand how it works, we already have a readership, and we're learning quickly about the difference between promoting self-published books, because there's actually a business model behind it for it to make you a decent return.
Yeah. And that's an important thing for people to consider, how many roles, like how many hats are you willing to wear, and what sort of success do you want? So if you want a lot of success with indie, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats. You're going to have to understand distribution. You're going to have to do all social media. You're going to have to run ads. You're going to have to treat it like a business, do accounting. And some people are comfortable with that. We're comfortable with that. Some people perhaps don't want to do all those different, wear all those different hats,
or don't have the skill set, and then they have to pay so many people to support them that they're not making a profit, and they're just stressing themselves out
as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, exactly. But then of course the flip side of that is it's really hard to get an agent. It's really hard even with an agent to get a good publishing deal, and ironically, you don't necessarily make more money with a small publisher, for instance, if you don't get a big advanced. So obviously you're going to make more if you do it all yourself. So there's swings and roundabouts, and as Jackie said, not every genre is appropriate to self-publish. I mean, children's books are often bought as gifts, or they're impulse buys in shops, so you're much more likely to sell more kids books if you're big enough that you're in a shop window, whereas if you're writing sexy paranormal stuff set in Europe, then people snap it up.
Yeah. Our readers are e-reader people.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's really important, that the kind of genres that work on ebooks are the kind that do really, really well with self-publish. So crime, thriller, I hate the term chick lit, but fun holiday reads, and horror and paranormal and fantasy, they do really, really well because they're fast reads. They're constant consumers, and that's why our business model is that we aim for 3 to 4 a year. But what's amazing is that if our other books or our personal life gets busy and we have to kind of slow things down, that's fine as well, because we have that flexibility to do that. But our readers whiz through them. It takes us ages to write the book, and then they read it in a day.
You mentioned that you had a foreign rights agent. Did that agent come from, or was that somebody who kind of expressed interest after you'd published?
That was actually a contact of mine. It's really important when you're working in this industry. You really need to have a good network. Things like this. And she happened to be an ex-colleague of a writer friend of mine who works in foreign rights, specifically for picture books normally, although she's also the agent for Brian May of Queen. So completely random, but that for me was exciting enough. And I sent her The Pathkeeper, my other trilogy, and she loved it. So she was already repping that. She's working at the moment to get that out there now that it's complete nearly. And so when I mentioned this to her, she was a bit like, oh, I don't know. And then she read it and loved it and said, yes. I've already got some people in mind that this will appeal to. but there aren't that many foreign rights agents that will take you on without being your agent, full stop. And there aren't many agents that will take on a self-published duo unless you've got the figures to show that you're, you know, bestseller or award-winning or whatever. But there's no one way to get anywhere in this industry. You speak to any author. In fact, there was an author today on Twitter saying how she was first signed with an agent. No, she started querying her book in 2007. She got signed with an agent in 2009. She was first published in 2011. She didn't give up her day job until 2016.
Wow.
She had so many books come out. She was a New York Times bestseller in 2019, 2020, and this year with her trilogy. But we're now in 2021. She started her journey in 2007. So she's been for 14 years, she's been doing this. And people are like, oh my God, you know, you're so successful. She's like, I nearly gave up 20 times. In fact, she's got 5 books out that no one even knows exists because, you know, that was the beginning of her career, where she'd been doing it for 9 years, still juggling 2 kids, working full time with 5 or 6 books out, thinking this isn't going anywhere. Now she's a New York Times bestseller. So you just never know at what point your luck's going to come in or how to get there. You know, I had an agent, then she packed up her business. Then I got signed without an agent. Then that publisher went under. Then I got signed again without an agent. Now I'm looking for an agent for another book, but we're doing pretty well with this series. And, you know, there's just, and Jackie's also got her own journey. It's complicated, but you just have to keep on pushing.
Yeah. So our top tips for those considering writing together, and I think you can move on to the next slide, Natalie, because those are the...
Hello. Okay, here we go.
Do it. So
this is what we do in our free time.
Right there.
Yeah, we are good friends, and I don't know if it would work otherwise. And we are also very honest. So like with the male corsets, for example, I would just be like, no, thank you, don't want that. And then Natalie's like, okay. So
that's literally the first time you've told me that, so it's good to know Faye's aren't wearing corsets. Okay, moving on.
I remembered it right now when you pulled that up. I was like, that's a no from me. But
I'll get back to you about that one. But that you've got to be, I mean, that's number 4, put your ego aside.
And then, you know, Natalie can be like, this would really mean a lot for me, and I'll be like, okay. So, but then you
it doesn't mean a lot to me. But no, sometimes I'll be like, please, and she's like, okay. Then other times you'll say something, I'm like, really? And then we'll try, like, okay. But neither of us are ever offended about any idea.
Yeah,
really.
we're not precious about any of it, and I don't think people need to talk every single day. That's our own choice. We keep making.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we talk every single day. I'm just presuming that everybody is like as obsessive as we are. No, you don't have to.
I mean, the other day Natalie was like, "Oh, I don't know, something like about how our chat had got on and on." And I was like, "Well, in a normal world, we could grab a movie and a dinner and talk about all these things, and that's not where we are right now. So it's okay that we have these very long chats."
We have a water cooler moment, you know, like back in the office when you'd be like, go and have a coffee, but really you chat to your mate for an hour. We sometimes have to do that, and then we're like, oh yeah, let's talk about the book. Where are we up to?
Make sure your skills are different. I think that was the biggest thing that worked in our favor, is that we have completely opposite skill sets. So that's really cool because we instinctively know who's going to do what, and who gets, you know, anxious about what, or who's the better person to take a certain thing on. That's been really cool because we don't argue about that, and we're not precious about the individual things as well. So if you do have a friend you're considering co-writing with, or maybe not a friend, maybe just a contact that you want to approach because you admire their work, I would say think about whether your skill sets are different, at least. Because if, for example, we were both really attached to dialogue, I don't know if maybe one of us would get a little precious about it, or if humor. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite funny writing the sex scenes, because I've written quite a few sex scenes in my books. I don't think you have previously, though, have you, Jackie? Not many in your YA, because it's much younger audience. And I was like, this could be awkward. How are we going to write sex scenes together? And actually, we will be doing classes on writing sex scenes for adults and stuff. But but it's quite, it just makes me laugh because sometimes I'll be like, I'll leave this bit to you, but I suggest they do X, Y, Z. And then like you come back and then you've changed. I'm like, oh, they did something different. Okay. But yeah, we don't, there's no aspects of any of it that neither of us like doing. I think the only thing we don't like doing is the accounting side of stuff, the actual business side of stuff.
Oh yeah, that we try to pawn off on each other.
It was like, do we know someone that could just help us with the legalities? But yeah, so go on ahead. Yeah, love the same things. You read that.
Yeah, we do like a lot of the same things, I think, and we like a lot of the same shows, and that kind of also helps with our momentum, because she'll be like, oh, I just found this great show on, like I recommended Motherland, I think a few weeks ago, and then you recommended Deadly Class, and we both like just
and Elite, and that was a big inspiration for us, wasn't it? Elite.
Yeah, we like sexy stuff with a lot of paranormals, with boarding schools and murder, and very similar things, and so that helps. Put your ego aside, we've covered that one, but yeah, we're not precious at all, I'd say. So I don't care if Natalie takes out my 3 pages, unless maybe like one line meant something to me, and she doesn't really care if I rewrite her chapter. And I think that's what people worry about the most when we have these talks. People are like, do you fight? How often do you fight? What do you do if you don't like what they did? And so I think it's going to be really hard to finish a book together if you're precious about things. So I know a few co-writing duos that didn't work out, because pretty soon it was like, I don't like this. Well, I do like it. And then that spins into a whole thing.
I think we're both so terrified of something ever being our first argument. We're just like, no, it's fine. No, you're fine. No, I'm fine. I think there was an issue with the audio, and I signed something off and I made a mistake. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the big argument that we're going to have, and she's going to hate me. And you're like, it's fine, we'll sort it out. I was like, okay, that was good. So, sometimes you make mistakes.
I think at the start of your career, you're really precious. You're like, I'm Shakespeare, don't touch this. And you're just very, and that kind of gets, especially if you do screenwriting, that gets murdered inside of you very quickly. And after years of working together with people and stuff, I'm like, oh, does this suck? It sucks? Okay, throw it out, don't care. Because you're used to, like, you are proud when you create something great, but you're also used to people being like, this sucks. That's fine. That goes out. You have a joint mission, you have a joint name, a joint book. And if someone says this doesn't work, you're not going to like stop to be like, well, I think it does. And I'm going to risk the whole project because I'm so sure that I'm right.
Exactly.
But that's probably a problem that people do encounter a lot in all sorts
of and I think as you said, I mean, we've been working now, I don't know, I'm working on my 11th book at the moment, but I remember my second book had a professional editor with a publisher, and she cut 16,000 words, which I think it would equate to, my maths isn't very good, but 45 pages of A4. That's a lot to cut, right? It was about 4 chapters. Boom, that whole section's gone. I was like, oh wow, okay, 16,000 words, okay, wow. And once that's happened to you, and or I've written articles for newspapers and they've changed the heading, or they've cut a whole section out, or they've run it with just like 10% of what you've written, you're like, okay. So
I got an editorial letter where the editor was just like, oh, are you sitting down? Do you have wine? And I was like, haha, sure, because all editorial letters can be difficult. And then she was like, this book isn't very good. And that was like the basis of the editorial letter. And I was like, what? And then it went into like 6 pages of what was not good in any shape or form. And that was very hard for me to get through. But I got through it. And then when I fixed it, the next actor about it, but you get used to
yeah, exactly. And then another thing is have a plan from the start. So yeah, keeps me a bit of feedback there. So have a plan from the start. It just means like there's no point getting halfway through a series and then say, oh, wait a minute, I thought book 4 this was going to happen, because that is going to completely throw you, and we're always just desperate not to kind of make each other anxious over things. So we already know what happens in the last book. We knew what happened at the end of the series before we even started the first book. that really, really helped for us, because originally it was just going to be lots of individual books set in the same world. And I said to Jackie, I'd really love there to be a theme running all the way through them, so that our readers are addicted to it and want to know what happens next and don't just pick it up willy-nilly.
I'm gonna answer a question, but also say someone needs to mute their mic, because I don't know, we can hear construction noises.
Yeah.
And, was the editor a freelancer you paid or part of the publishing team? So I think Natalie's had an official editor at some point that was part of the team. I've had foreign editors request changes. I've had paid editors that I picked out. And I think that's the whole set. So
it doesn't matter if it's a newspaper or magazine editor. It doesn't matter, because I've had that as well. It doesn't matter if it's an editor from your publishing team or if it's someone you paid. Their job is to tell you what's crap.
I have definitely hired a number of editors in the past, and I don't regret a single time. I do regret certain things I spent money on in the past early on when I started this, but I never regret the editors, because you can ask your friends, you can get alpha and beta readers, which we have a team of, but nothing is the same as a professional that is gonna get
and
back.
you want them to tell you what's wrong, because if you're told on your first attempt of any book, no matter how far down the road you are, that it's perfect, someone's lying to you.
I would say a mistake I did make that I want other people to not make is I grossly overpaid for an editor when I started out in this field, and I just found one online, when you're new, and I was like, well, she looks good, and like, look at the quotes and stuff. It was very expensive. I didn't have a way to measure it, and I thought it was good because the feedback was like, this book is great, everything's so great. And only until I later found someone who told me what was bad did I realize what you're paying for. And the later editors that I've hired in the past, they were all published authors of books that I like. So you wouldn't think, that authors that you admire and like and read are out there doing, editing work at a decent price, but books don't pay a lot. So actually it's possible that some of the authors you really like do editorial, do editing on the side. And that was really cool for me. I got a few YA authors that I really admire to be my editors for a really decent price.
So we get to do it for each other with this series. So it's great, because we're very, honest, we're very blunt. You can be blunt without being rude, and Jackie often will be like, no, I don't like that. And I'll go, okay, fine. And just move on. And lastly, be fair. So make sure you have the same amount of time and energy as one another. And we're really good like that. We keep our communication open. So, she might say, well, I've actually got some appointments, or I've got a paid client that I need to give some attention to this week. I had edits on my last book, which is 148,000 words coming through my publisher. And I was like, Jesus, that was 430 pages I had to edit. And it took me 4 or 5 days. So I was like, sorry, Jackie, I'm just going to have to get my head down and get this done. So we're really clear with one another what other things we have going on. I've got 2 kids, I'm homeschooling. You've also got family nearby, so there was a lot going on.
I know Natalie's schedule by heart, and I would also say that like empathy meant a lot to me through this process, because I do have another business partnership that is more business, and there's like a lack of empathy. And I don't know if I could have dealt with it here because it's been such a hard 1.5 years as well. So we're quite empathetic about being like, okay, you can't do what you were going to do these 3 days. So I'll take over, you slot it for next week. And then, so if you're fair and empathetic, I think, that can work, because, at first you're working for free for such a long time, and you have to also be kind and have empathy and be fair.
And until this becomes something that justifies us dropping other stuff, we have to try and juggle it all for now, as well as our own private life and a pandemic. So, it's not easy. And then, okay, what's next? Now we've got all our pretty books up there. Look at her design, honestly, it's so awesome.
So we do have, these are the covers we've revealed so far, and then people kind of play a guessing game with which cities are going to come up later. and which paranormals are going to come up. So yeah, these are the 3, and it's called the Blood Web Chronicles because the concept of the series is that I don't know if you guys know about the deep web, but it's a portion of the web that is, you know, where a lot of clandestine things happen. And the concept here is that there's a corner of the deep web or the dark web that is just for paranormals. So kind of where paranormals tend to all of their needs and desires anonymously. Yeah, and the Blood Web Chronicle is then a online newspaper that is located on the Blood Web, and it's a news source for paranormals all around the world about what sort of crime and politics and news are happening in the paranormal world. And that's where our heroine Saskia works as an investigative reporter. So
they live amongst us. That's really important, that they're living in our world right now. So they are among us.
They are among us, and each book is a thriller where she, in essence, has to unearth, you know, she has to do a bunch of investigative work to find out what happened. And usually they get their tip-offs from like whistleblowers or something. So it's kind of like WikiLeaks meets like dark web meets, you know, True Blood, like a paranormal world among us. So
it's a bit, someone described it as a female. Sorry, I thought my cat had swallowed stuff. She's okay. She stopped choking.
Every lesson we teach, her cats like get involved.
Honestly, I'm just watching them. They're trashing the place. I'm trying not to be distracted. So it's like a female James Bond meets, you know, True Blood or something. So, but the covers are very purposely paranormal, dramatic, and they're very much like this. We did a lot of research because this fits perfectly with our genre. And then when it comes to branding, obviously each color's got a different jewel tone and different paranormal and a different city. So there's the Sirens is our novella, our first prequel novella, book 1, book 2. We have book 3, 4, 5, and 6 in production and plotting and we're working on. And then there'll be a seasonal novella coming out early December, which is half written.
There's a Christmas novella this year, and it's been fun because people have been writing to us being like, can you do Warsaw? Can you do Copenhagen? And trying to guess the towns or request the towns. So
which we might do, depends how well. And we've even got ideas for a spin-off. so we're going to be busy. So in theory, book 2 is out on the 31st of March. Book 3, which we haven't revealed the title or the cover for, we're hoping to be out at the end of this summer. We're being vague because we like to give ourselves a bit of flexibility. And then we've got the Christmas novella that we hope. So sorry for that noise. Trash in the house. And that will be the Christmas novella beginning of December. And then we have 2 more books and 1 more novella in 2022. So there are plans for this series. And then after that, if they do well, we might do a spin-off in the same world because we've done a lot of world building.
Yeah, so the final pages are socials.
Yes. Here we are having fun. So when Jackie came to my house back in September, we were like, we're going to have to do loads of shoots. We're just going to have to do loads of photos because they're going to have to be. So we had a lot of fun doing that as well. That's outside my house. God knows what my neighbours thought we were up to. We just had all the kids' fancy dress stuff on them, dressed up for Halloween. But so we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, but we are also on TikTok, or we're getting there. Jackie's already on TikTok. And you can check us all out. Yeah, you won't see me doing little dances or skits. And check out Kate. Oh, look, I've spelt our website wrong. I've just spotted it.
I've written it in the chat.
Have you? You just spotted that. I sent it to you to double check. Caedis Knight is. We made up the name, by the way. Caedis isn't even a name. It comes from the Latin word Caedis, which means slaughter and murder and destruction. But it's Caedis. Caedis Knight.
So, do you want to exit that, Natalie? We can open up for questions.
Yeah.
That was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. So I have a burning question, and especially because we have a lot of screenwriters on here, and I know Jackie is a screenwriter herself. are you thinking about making these into movies? Because it seems to me, from what I've read and from what I've seen, they are gagging for that.
We do have one TV producer listening to our audio files. The audio is not officially out yet, but she's got the raw file she's listening to. We are looking, we are putting things together. You know, we plan to go to some to events. Well, Jackie's much more into that, but we would love ultimately like a Netflix or something, because it does lend itself really well to a series.
Yeah, I would love that. I do think, like, objectively, that it would work really well. I mean, I don't know how objective I can be, but like with my previous projects, I optioned my last book, but even as I optioned it, I was like, but this is going to be expensive, and I don't know if it hits enough of the notes and stuff. With this, I can imagine either a production in a foreign language, so it could, you could alter it to base it anywhere. Maybe if it was a Spanish co-production or something that's growing in popularity a lot nowadays. You could get a lot of rebates in the different territories. It has the sexy aspect that a lot of people are looking for now. So which the show could, they could go to the full extent of, like, the stuff that's growing in popularity, like After and 365 Days, and a lot of these very, sexual shows or films. So it could go all the way there if it wanted to. It's a really diverse cast already in the books. So I think it would just be a question of, could someone find the right people or the right co-production? But it definitely ticks a lot of really good boxes. So
absolutely, yeah. It wouldn't be an expensive show to produce, and obviously you could do it in different order, really. I mean, I've seen, I mean, for instance, Leigh Bardugo's series is about to go on Netflix. I think it's in March, is it, or April? And they took literally 5 of her books and they've just merged it into one and just taken the world and merged the stories. So, that's the awesome thing when it comes to being optioned for TV. You don't have to stick exactly to the book. We've created a really, really exciting world, and I think that would appeal. And it'd also have longevity, so you could keep building on it.
Yeah, and budget-wise, it happens in modern day, in our society, and you could take your pick of the places, and per book also, there's a lot of cool locations, but it's not like extensive. It's not like a fairy world, or except for Under the Sea in Sirens, that would be different, but they can just scrap Sirens. Some people are going, okay, good night, guys, or good morning. I don't know. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Eileen. Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. Yes, we can open up for other questions if anyone has one.
Feel free to either make reflections or, as Jackie said, ask questions. Okay, we've got one there.
Oh, Jackie can answer this one, because I'm looking to do the other side. So someone's asking, Francis is asking, any recommendations for transitioning from script writing to writing a novel, especially when it comes to workshopping your material?
Yeah, you can join a lot of groups really easily, especially now that everyone's online. So finding places to workshop, I think, is pretty easy. Even like I've been on Instagram in the past and gone, does anyone want to do some workshops in the next few weeks? And then people it's a two-way street, so it's just about finding people that you think you can get the right feedback from. But that's been really easy in the past, getting someone to read it and workshop it in exchange for reading and workshopping theirs. Transitioning from script writing. So yeah, I think the transition can be pretty natural for many people, because it's not, I don't know. Do you have notes, Natalie? I'm trying to think.
I've heard it's easy. I've heard it's easier to go from novel writing to screenwriting, because you go from saying a lot to being, saying it in a more concise way. It depends. If you're somebody who really enjoys language and world building, the thing is with script writing, you can have some fantastic characters, great plot and great dialogue, but then you can put a line in saying this scene is set in Dracula's castle, you know,
Yeah,
and that's it. Whereas with a book, you have to write, you know, a lot more than that.
For me, screenwriting is easier just because there's fewer pages. I know that I can leave a lot to the imagination. You know, I can say this man 40 comes in looking like he's lost something today, you know, so that was terrible, but it's just one line to set the scene there. And I don't have to worry about the locations. And also plot is really difficult for novels because people are going to find every little pothole that you might have left there. So you really have to think through all of it.
Yeah, when you write novels, you are the writer and the director.
Yeah. I would say my record for a novel would be, on my own, would be 6 months, but I have knocked out a screenplay in a month. So that's something to keep in mind. Or for clients, when I'm doing animation, like 12 minutes, I can do that in 2 work days. That is something to keep in mind. It's going to be really hard to get your novel done in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So yeah. So
that's a good question. Sorry if I'm distracted. I've got a kitten. I'm going to have to get her in a minute.
Any other questions at all? Feel free to either say it, put your hand up, or put it in the chat.
Jackie's laughing because every single time we have these Zoom calls, it's always in the evening, and my kids are fast asleep, so I can't leave the cats upstairs. They wake them up, so they're locked in the room with me, and they are literally just smashing everything. It's really frustrating. For self-publishing and ebooks, which platforms do you prefer or recommend? What do you think about Wattpad?
Yeah. I like Wattpad. I think it's fun. I do have 2 friends that got publishing deals from Wattpad, but I don't know if that's a bit of a thing from the past when Wattpad had a more favorable algorithm and people could put their stuff out and get it really seen by thousands and thousands. I love Wattpad for sharing and playing with, for selling. And if you want to get money and make money and, you know, be read widely, Amazon is really the main contender. And then you got Apple Books, right? Apple Books, and Nook, which is the Barnes and Noble one. So those are the 3 kind of big ones. There's a couple other ones, but Amazon really has a giant share of the market. And a good thing to keep in mind is Amazon will ask you to be exclusive with them if you want to be on like Kindle Unlimited and make money per page read. So some of mine and Natalie's friends make really good money doing this. And then you're exclusive and you're not even on the other platforms.
Yeah, and you get a bigger royalty cut. So you can tick the box that says, you know, anyone can read us on any platform, but then you make less money from Amazon. So they're very, very smart. Same with the audio. We had a lot of fun with ACX, which is Amazon's platform for audio. And they are really, really easy as well. So anyway, with ACX, we got to audition and listen to actresses and choose our voice for Saskia. Brilliant, really.
People try to bypass sometimes going with Amazon because obviously Amazon, you know, has a reputation and stuff. But they do, it's worth keeping in mind they have like 70% share of the ebook market. So
yeah,
it is.
And right now during lockdown and everything, then you know, I was saying to my husband today, I said, I know it's got a terrible reputation. No one wants to give just one person all their money, but at the same time, until somebody can offer what they can, which is, you know, next day delivery and guaranteed everything, it's really easy as well for authors.
Next day printing all around the world. So if someone in Poland wants our book, it will be printed for them and delivered next day.
The next day. How can we guarantee, you know, how can we offer anything else to our readers right now? We can't. And, you know, bookshop can't do that. So yeah, unfortunately, until somebody else can rival them, that's who we work with. And they've been really helpful and really supportive. And the quality of our books, not, you know, I'm with a traditional publisher, and quite frankly, the quality is not much different. So yeah, even the typesetting and the layout, Jackie did all of this, and it's just, I think it looks fantastic.
There's another question. Script writing is easy because you're limited by page count, but novels are quite lengthy. How do you break it down to not feel overwhelmed? I would recommend Save the Cat. I think she started with a book about screenwriting, or did she then save.
Yeah, it was Save the Cat screenwriting, and there you go, Save the Cat right behind
you
me.
can look up the beat sheet as a cheat. So that's how you would break up your novel into tangible sections. Also, you know, the story will function the same as your screenplay. So 3-act structure, you know, the climax, the inciting incident, you're going to have all of that in your book. But just if you transition, imagine that you are also the costume department, you are also, you've picked out the set and you've described it in detail. So you are everybody. And then you're going to end up with something, you know, 6 times the length of your screenplay. So that would be a good starting point. And then with novels, with scripts, I think I used to, no, I'd also rewrite them like a number of times, but with novels, it's like, it's grueling. Like it's a lot of rewriting and polishing.
I know, and I mean, this book is 70,000 words. I know most people don't work in words, they work in pages, but it's 70,000. So just to give you an idea, it's like a standard. And the book I've just finished writing for my publisher is 148. So it's literally double. It's going to be like that. It's going to be really, really thick. But I really do believe that a book is as long as it needs to be, although it's harder to tell a good story in fewer words. So it depends with the genre, but I wouldn't get too bogged down with word count. But the way that I do it when I'm writing a novel, to answer that question, is that obviously we, you know, decide on the plot and what's going to happen and the characters and and then I like to decide roughly how many chapters. So if I know that each chapter is 2,500 words, and I know how many chapters I want it to be because I know what has to happen at which point, then I can calculate in advance how many words that's going to be.
Yeah. And writing a novel is also, if one of, you know, the things that you want the most is to see your work in physical shape where it can reach a certain amount of people, then, you know, a novel can be a surefire way to that. Whereas a script, you know, it's a waiting game, and maybe it'll get made, maybe it won't get made and stuff. So if you're a little bit tired of that and really want, even, you know, you can write a novella, or you can also self-publish a short story. So then you can do it, and within 6 months it's there, it's for sale, and it exists. And that can be quite nice, and a change of pace for some people to feel like their work, you know, got out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any industry, just learning the whole time. I'm really sorry, I'm getting completely photobombed. I have 2 cats. I don't even know why we got them. We thought it'd be a good idea during.
Yeah, so for me, that was a nice change of pace sometimes, because, for example, I consulted and worked with Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and did a lot of animation stuff, and a lot of that never saw the light of day, which is normal in animation. And so then, you know, when I changed course a little bit and wrote something that I then could hold in my hands a year later, that was also a nice change for me.
Yeah, because the great thing is that even if you want to go trade traditional, however you want to think about it, and you struggle to get your agent, and you struggle to get this and that, but you're really confident that you've got a great book, then you know you have the option for it still to exist, for someone to still buy it. And I think it's great experience as well to kind of take that leap as well, to know what it's like to have your work out there in people's hands and to get reviews and to get feedback. It can be scary and it can be painful, but we all have to cross that line. So that's also why self-publishing is really great at the beginning of your career. I mean, I did it the other way around, but I like that we're hybrid. I like having the freedom of one and then having the expertise working with us and others. So I think it's great to have both options if you can.
So I think that's about it, unless anyone...
There's one more question. How did you experience the world during the pandemic and the impact on the creative artistic domains? Well, apparently book sales have gone up 37%, but I'm still waiting to see that.
See that question. How did you experience
Suzanne Green, to everyone, this was, oh no, sorry, Suzanne Green said it was really interesting and entertaining. Thank you. No, Will and Botha said, how do you experience the world during the pandemic? I mean, it's really interesting. Sorry, it's just really interesting actually, because we've got a lot of writer and creative friends between us, and some are saying writer's block massively, it's too hard, you know, we're homeschooling kids, we're stuck indoors, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm scared, I can't be creative. I personally have worked more in the last 12 months than I have my entire writing career, and Jenny knows that, because I'm always saying, guess what I'm working on now? She's like, how are you still doing stuff? And it's the same with Jackie. I mean, you know, I've had more ideas than ever, and I think that's just because there is nothing else going on in my life except me and my laptop, and my kids are better behaved than my
We've
cat.
both been really productive throughout all of it, and then now I think we're kind of hitting a fading point because we're both in our third lockdown, I think. So now we're starting to feel, you know, like the week before exams or something where you're like, I can't anymore. So,
Yeah.
but before that, it was, yeah, we got through on novelty, then on perseverance, and now it's like the fading point.
I think everybody feels like that at the moment, don't they? And Melissa asked, do you go to writing shows? London Book Fair. I mean, I was told at the beginning of.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Can you not see what we're writing? So, I mean, London Book Fair, I was told, is an industry event and it's not for writers. I was told it's for agents and publishers, although I did go along because my first book was being featured at my publisher's stand, and they said, well, pop in and you can do some signings and talk to people. And I loved it because I happened to be there on the last day, and then all the publishers can't be bothered to take their books back, and people had suitcases full of free books. You can go for that reason, but it's not really so much about learning how to write. It's much more for industry.
With London Book Fair, I would say, I mean, it was free when I was going. I don't know if it still is free, but if it's free, like, you kind of might as well if you're not too far away. It's not a networking event because the agent's corner, or whatever it's called nowadays, like, you're not allowed in unless you're an agent or have a meeting, and B, they really frown upon networking specifically at the London Book Fair because they're there to do their 200 meetings that they have slated. So approaching them at other events is much better. Like agents tend to do events and stuff, or whoever you're trying to network with. Publishers also do other events. I would say the smaller the event, the more networking possibilities you're going to have.
Yeah.
But London Book Fair is really good for research, like a lot of these shows, because you can go and you can see the mid-level publishers, and you can see the smaller hybrid publishers. Them you can actually meet and visit their stand. And one major advice I would have is try to see if you can get meetings in advance, because then people take you more seriously. If you email them, 3 months in advance, like a small publisher, and you're like, can we sit down to talk? Then they might say yes, and then you actually have a meeting in the books. But I did make friends there, and I did take the free classes there, and they were great.
And I would recommend as well going to things like the Young Adult Literary Convention, because there are workshops and things. Join the Romance Novelist Association, the RNA. They're fantastic. They support indie as well as traditionally published authors. Become a member of the Society of Authors. I also write manga, so they've just launched a new kind of comic support network for comic creators as well as authors, and they're great for like agent or publisher contracts, because within a day or two they will read your contracts and give you feedback. It's a bit like a union, really. So those three are really good, and that's where I've also got a lot of support and contacts from. So the RNA does events. I haven't been to one, but my friend found her agent in a roundabout way, because you get one-on-one agent meetings, one-on-one editor meetings, you get feedback, they've read your book before the meeting, and it's just cutting your teeth really on the industry. You're not going to write a book, get an agent, get a six-figure deal and be a bestseller. Not the first time, not in your first year, possibly not even in your 5th year. So all of these things are just ways of finding your feet in this industry, really.
Yeah, any tips for writing query letters? They're the bane of everyone's existence. Query letters. I had a round of feedback from a bunch of authors that I met over the course of working in London. So for one of my queries that I did well with, I had authors workshopping it for me. In previous years, I wouldn't have shown my query to anyone. I think I would have been a bit shy about it. But then later, I showed my query to everybody that I could. So that would be a tip. Yeah.
My tip for querying, because I queried, oh God, I had a 3-book, traditionally published 3-book deal, and that means absolutely sod all, because I still queried 45 agents for my subsequent book that nobody wanted, that's like in a metaphorical drawer at the moment. It's never going to see the light of day. And then but I would say that I actually help a lot of my friends with their query letters, because it does help if you have a bit of a sales or marketing background, because you can help people sell themselves much easier than they sell themselves, because we all tend to be a bit humble. I'm not very humble. Most people are humble. So, you know, they undersell themselves, but agents really do need to know everything you've done. But at the same time, you don't want to be braggy, because it's about the quality of your story idea and the quality of your writing. But when it comes to query letters, the most important thing is you need to do your research.
Yeah.
You can't just send a blanket letter out to everyone.
I would say don't be random in your approach at all, and think about the long game and be very strategic. When I first started out, I would go to like LBF and I would see an agent. I'd be like, "You're an agent, like, let me tell you about me," you know, and then not know what they want to represent, what they're looking for, what they like. If I were to start out again now, I would probably like befriend some people on Twitter, talk to them over a course of time, offer value to them. So be helpful, offer to workshop something with them, support their work, and then kind of segue into like getting to know some agents, what they like, and then approaching specifically people. Because agents, like, I didn't think this when I started, but they're very specific. They'll be like, I'm looking for, you know, a war road trip novel with a protagonist who's this and that, and then
I love pigs, and you're like, oh my god, okay, that's exactly what I've written. You know,
like, I was speaking to an agent the other day, and then her profile said, I don't want books with talking cats, you know, I just don't. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure she has a reason for that trauma.
But I think Rajiv saying, how do you talk to agents? Is it like a pitch, or do you like your work? And I love this bit. Or do you wait to be discovered or approached? You're not going to be discovered or approached unless you've self-published and, you know, The Guardian's written an article about how you've sold your millionth book. You're not going to have someone knocking on your door. There are two ways of getting in front of them. One is networking, getting to know other authors, building your network up, getting an introduction and sending your work off to them, which takes a long time. Or you do what everybody does. You go on their website, you research what they want. If you're a good fit, you write them a query letter and you add it to their slush pile. And a slush pile is, you know, a big long list of aspiring writers with their, or even established writers with their new book, and they get back to you within, it can be 3-4 months. It can be as long as that.
I put in the comments manuscript wish list. It's a website where all agents talk about their very specific wish lists and their preferences. So that
helps as well. But yeah, I mean, when you're querying agents, you are literally researching, sending a letter off, and then having to sit very, very patiently, because it takes up to 12 weeks, sometimes longer, just to get a no. So it's a very laborious, long process.
And I think try to think like an agent, and that means try to think about money, because it is what, you know, their business is about money. Their business is about selling concepts. So try, when you look at an agent, don't just think you're going to like this, but try to think in your head, you could sell this, you know, this would sell. And then not, you know, say that per se, but like, the way you format it, have it be a little bit salesy as to why, you know, what kind of people would like this, why you know, is there a rise in popularity in this type of stuff, and just think about it as a business thing, because they are thinking about it as a business thing.
Just want to say goodbye to Elliot, because I know he's off. Elliot from Rain Dance, they're fantastic. If you know him. Yeah, we've been working closely with other courses and stuff, and Rain Dance is another wonderful network of creative professionals. So check them out as well. So thanks for your help today, Elliot. Thanks for shouting about us on social media. But yeah, I mean, you know, the agent thing, we're still looking for agents, because we've still got books that we know will work better traditionally published, and it gets easier the more established you are in the industry and the more people that can recommend you. So watch this space, because we are working with some people at the moment on things. But yeah, I think that's all the questions so far. Anyone got anything else you want to comment on or ask?
And there are non-traditional methods. So I have one friend who got his agent based off Wattpad, but obviously, like I said, agents think about money, and he had millions of reads on Wattpad. So that, you know, then the agent was like, yes, I want this because I can sell this. I had another friend who got an agent based off of TikTok. And I think someone got an agent based off of Twitter for having a really popular account that was like Not Your Brooding YA Hero or something like that.
Oh, did they get a deal? Yeah, that was a funny
so
account.
So there are other ways, but again, it all translates to how do they think they're going to sell or position you. Natalie has a friend who wrote a nonfiction thing about the Dutch art of doing nothing, and then she got that deal right based off of an article.
Yeah, she went viral with the New York Times. Now I met this woman, Olga. She's one lovely woman, and she was, you know, like me, an expat living in the Netherlands, and she had a blog, semi, you know, successful blog, but she cut her teeth on the blog, and then she started to really pitch her stories to newspapers. So she started off local papers, bigger papers. In the end, she ended up in Oprah magazine, BBC, The Guardian, New York Times. Her New York Times article about the Dutch art of doing nothing, Nixon, went viral. Off the back of that, she got a publishing deal. She's now in 18 countries with her book, which is perfectly timed during a pandemic, because we all want to know if it's good for us to sit around doing nothing. Give us permission to sit around doing nothing. So she got all of that. And, you know, when I first met her 3 years ago, she was a very stressed out mum, writing for fun, writing recipes and articles on her blog. So you just got to keep pushing.
Alyssa asked, did you ever enter in any writing competitions? Can you recommend any? So I did not have the best experience with writing competitions, because I did an MA in screenwriting in London, an MA in TV and film. And our course leader was kind of like, you should enter a lot of competitions. And I was like, okay, great, I'll enter a lot of competitions. And but they were very, the competitions want you to tailor stuff to them. So each one takes a certain amount of time, not to mention that like they cost money. A lot of competitions cost money. So I did like London film, I forgot what it's called, but we got like second runner up in that. But that was a lot, like that was weeks and weeks of work and stuff. And usually sometimes there's no payoff. So I would say with competitions, be really careful and understand that they're also a business. You know, I was like 12th in a HBO competition, but I had to pay $80 just to enter. And then obviously only the first one got, you know, number one got a possibility to then do something, but they had like, I don't know, 10,000 applicants or something like that. So it's nice to come, you know, 12th in 10,000, but ultimately you have to weigh how long does it take, how much does it cost, and what do you get for it in the end. So I would search maybe smaller competitions that are still trying to, you know, get a foothold, and maybe there's a cash prize or exposure. Maybe they have a great Twitter, and look into it and know that they're also a business. So.
And it's the same with awards. I was longlisted for the RNA YA award in 2017, but you have to be with a publisher in that one, and they enter you. We've entered a bunch of indie awards because we can, and it's fun, and you know, they're not too expensive to enter.
If it's free or cheap and you don't have to alter your work for it, like it's going to take, you know, 10 minutes, then as many as you want, you know, because that gives you a great opportunity. But like, for example, yesterday someone sent me a competition, and they're like, these people, they're giving away $1,000 prize for a short story, and it's like, I think it was like nautical or something. And I was like, well, I could sit there. I don't particularly like short stories. It's going to take me, you know, a day or 2 days to create something that I'm kind of proud of. And then I'm going to submit that, and my chances are not that high maybe. And then I can't put that anywhere afterwards. So like with poems, I do enter a lot of competitions, and I've won some competitions because the poems are there. And then I just enter these different competitions for fun. And it didn't really cost me any time or effort, you know.
Stories are much harder to write than a whole novel.
Yeah, they're really hard.
It's
so
really
like
hard. A good short story is really hard. Yeah,
do that.
I have managed to get 2 short stories into an anthology, and I think the first thing I ever had published, I forgot about this actually, the first book I ever appeared in was called what was it called? I can't even remember, the Mother book or something. And it was it was published by Selfish Mother, which was a blog at the time that was really successful. And she used to work in magazines, the woman who ran it, Molly. And I had loads of articles that I submitted into her online magazine, and off the back of that, a handful of them were chosen for this anthology that was in John Lewis. So, you know, I had some credibility, it was on the shelves. And that was my first time I saw my name in print. It was published under my married name. It wasn't NJ Simmons or my author name now. And they were essays. They weren't short stories or fiction. But that was the first time I saw my work in print in a shop. And that was when I knew that this is it. This, you know, this was back in 2015 or something, before I got my own deal or anything. But yeah, that for me was first thing I did. So anthologies
are great. We have a friend who just started a paranormal anthology.
Yeah, I've got a story in that one. It was accepted. There are two actually that are going to be going into different ones. So
and you already had that story, so giving
I already had them, yeah,
and seeing it in print is awesome. But because you have to remember, in these industries, a lot of people take the piss. So if it's a competition and it's like, we want it to be about this and this and this, like the HBO competition I entered, they wanted it was so specific, and they were clearly looking for something, and it was PR, and then like so many people applied, and so they made a ton of money as well. So really look at the fine print. Who's benefiting? How are you going to benefit? If you create something for this competition, can you then take that and do something else with it? And don't let people take the piss, basically.
I would seriously recommend everybody read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I knew Jenny would start nodding because I knew it was exactly the kind of book you'd love. Because yeah, Big Magic by thanks for adding. I'm not even typing anything, am I? I should be typing. Sorry about my bloody cat. So yeah, Elizabeth Gilbert is amazing. I watched a talk on her actually a couple of weeks ago, and she's a big believer in the magic of creation. Every single person right here watching this knows what it is to be a creative person and to just tell stories. We all tell stories in different ways. And as soon as I changed my mindset, so before that I was like, all these questions here, how do I get an agent? What do I have to write to win me a competition? What do I have to write? And when you're chasing the end result, whether it be money or success or recognition, as opposed to getting lost in the flow of that creation, that creativity, you're actually writing for other people, you're not writing for yourself, and then the magic doesn't happen. So I read this book in November 2019, and I remember thinking, oh my god, I've put all my creative eggs into one basket with my trilogy, and I was putting so much pressure on myself over something I had no control over, whether people were going to buy this book and like it. It wasn't with a huge publisher, so I didn't have a massive budget behind it. And I decided to diversify, and I decided to collaborate, and I decided to work with others. So I started working with perfect timing, because I think you only just called me, so I started working with Jackie. I got into manga through a contact that Jenny gave me, actually through Collab writers. So now I'm writing manga. I started to just write books for fun to see where they'd go. I'm also working with someone else on something else which I can't mention, and I've said yes to other projects since then. All this vagueness, and all in all, I now have lots of eggs in lots of baskets, hopefully not too many, but ultimately I'm writing stories I'm passionate about, and they're leading to things, but I never intended for any of them to lead to a certain place. I went there for the excitement, for the joy, for the magic of creating something. So I think focus on that first. Be a bit savvy, understand how the industry works, but create, whether it's a movie or a comic or a book, something that you love more than something that has to succeed.
Right. Thank you so much, Melissa, as well, for coming. Actually, thank you everybody for coming. Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
It was incredibly helpful, and conscious that you've given so much of your time and energy tonight, and we've learned so many useful tips. It's been amazing.
Hey, we have no social life right now.
I don't think any of us do we really? Let's face it.
We did our makeup, we got out of our pajamas, we may as well hang out,
I prefer
my jewelry.
to like the Zoom birthday party I have to go to this weekend. I don't like them. I don't want to go to another Zoom birthday party for the rest of my life.
Oh my god.
But I have.
No, I know. We're all going to be so sick and tired of this. At first, I was like, this is such a great opportunity. We get to do all these cool things that, Berlin and Netherlands and loads of stuff that was going on in London. How do we get there? And now I think after the end of all this, we're all going to be like, no more staring at a screen. We're only doing in-person events. We're going to meet real people.
So thank you, everybody, and have a good
Thank you so much.
night, evening, morning.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. All right. Well, there's all the info. Should I put